Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're hitting the court and diving headfirst into the exhilarating, really fast-paced world of basketball. Just imagine the game for a second. Those quick sprints end to end, the explosive jumps for a rebound, the sudden agile cuts and changes of direction. It's clearly not just about raw talent, is it? It's profoundly about conditioning, building a body that can actually withstand and thrive under those relentless demands. So our mission today is to try and cut through some of the noise. We're exploring a rigorous scientific analysis focused on how a popular training method, high-intensity interval training, or HIA, specifically impacts basketball players. We're here to pull out the most important insights from this study, helping you understand if and how HIA can truly elevate performance on the court.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating about this particular deep dive is this source. It's based on a very recent, very comprehensive look at the subject. It's a systematic review and meta-analysis titled The Effects of High-Intensity Interval Training on Basketball Players. This investigation is really thorough. Published online March 1st, 2025 in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine. The lead authors are Shudian, Zhenxing, Zhaoran, Wang, Geok, and Liu. What they've done is sift through a huge amount of existing research to give us this consolidated picture. It's basically a shortcut for you, the listener, to grasp this complex topic without reading dozens of studies yourself.
Absolutely, a valuable shortcut indeed. So let's set the stage a bit. What exactly makes basketball such a unique physical challenge? Why does it demand so much?
Well, fundamentally, basketball is a high-intensity, intermittent team sport. That just means players are constantly needing to put out maximal or near maximal effort.
Right.
Think about it. Constant accelerations, sudden decelerations, sprinting, jumping, changing direction.
All the time.
Exactly. These aren't just one-off actions. They happen again and again throughout a game.
And to keep up that kind of varied, explosive activity, your body must be like juggling different energy sources, right?
Precisely. It relies on a combination of energy systems. You can almost think of them like different gears. You've got the immediate, super powerful ATP and creatine phosphate systems. That's your turbo boost for quick, all-out bursts.
Like a jump shot or a block.
Exactly. A short sprint. Then there's glycolysis, which kicks in for slightly longer, intense efforts. It works without oxygen, but builds up lactate that burn you feel. And finally, the aerobic system. That's your cruising gear, vital for lower intensity stuff. Or recovery periods, like jogging back on defense or maybe during a free throw.
So, okay, if I'm jogging back, that's aerobic, helping me recover, clear out that lactate maybe. But a fast break or the big jump uses those more anaerobic, explosive systems.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And the key is efficiently shifting between these systems. You need to quickly replenish those ATP-CCP stores and effectively clear lactate using that aerobic engine. That ability is absolutely crucial for high-level performance throughout the whole game.
Makes perfect sense. So if the game demands all these different energy systems, how does high-intensity interval training, HIE, step in? Can it really address all those varying needs?
Well, HIE is specifically designed for that kind of thing. It alternates short bursts of intense exercise with recovery periods.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that you can tailor different protocols to target specific energy systems.
Okay.
So, for instance, long interval HIIT that's maybe 2 to 4 minutes at high intensity primarily hits the aerobic system. Great for enhancing recovery and sustaining effort over the long haul of a game.
So it's not just one kind of HIIT workout fits all then?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's adaptable. Then you have short interval HIIT, maybe intense bursts under 45 seconds. That really stresses the anaerobic glycolytic system for those quick energy needs.
Right.
Repeated sprint training, or RST, think 10 seconds or less, all-out sprints, very brief recovery that targets the ATP-PPC system for explosive power and speed. Sprint interval training, SIT, involves longer all-out efforts, maybe over 20-30 seconds with more extended recovery. That builds anaerobic capacity and lactate tolerance. And finally, things like game-based training or small-sided games, SSGs, they kind of blend aerobic and anaerobic demands, mirroring game conditions pretty closely.
That's a really helpful breakdown of the different tools in the HI toolbox. Now, let's dive deeper into this specific study's approach. As we said, it's a systematic review and meta-analysis, a powerful way to synthesize research. What kind of studies did they look at, and what was the overall picture?
Right, so the researchers were rigorous. They followed the PRISMA guidelines, which is really the gold standard for these types of reviews. They searched all the major databases, Web of Science, Scopus, PubMed, Sport, Discus.
The big ones.
The big ones, yeah. They ended up including 15 studies in the systematic review part, and then 7 of those were suitable for the meta-analysis, the more quantitative part.
Yeah.
And the pool of players was quite broad, 369 players in total, 130 females, 239 males, ranging from developmental levels right up to national and international competitors.
So a good cross-section. What was the big headline conclusion from all that data?
The broad takeaway from the systematic review was that HII did significantly improve quite a few things: cardiovascular endurance, power, change of direction ability, COD, linear sprint speed, and even overall basketball skill-related performance.
Oh, wow. Okay. That sounds overwhelmingly positive. Like HIIT is just a complete game changer.
Yeah, it is a huge win in many areas, definitely. But the full picture has some important nuances. The initial review also pointed out that the effects on certain specific things were reported as inconsistent.
Inconsistent. Like what?
Things like VO2 max, your maximum oxygen uptake, and the yo-yo intermittent recovery test level 1, the yo-yo IR1.
Ah, the yo-yo test.
Yeah, that one. Also, general jump tests, ball throw tests, some specific GADI sprint tests, and even highly basketball-specific skills like shooting accuracy and the passing precision. The results across studies just weren't uniform for those.
Okay. So powerful, but maybe not a magic bullet for everything.
Exactly. And that inconsistency is key. It tells us we need to dig a bit deeper, which is what the meta-analysis helps us do.
Right. Let's get into those quantifiable results from the meta-analysis then. Those effect sizes give us a clearer picture. What did it show for specific fitness aspects? Let's start with cardiovascular endurance, the critical gas tank.
Okay, this is where it gets quite interesting. The meta-analysis found a very large effect on the yo-yo IR1.
Very large.
Very large, yeah. Effect size of 2.32, highly significant. And a moderate effect on VO2 max, also significant. So thinking about that yo-yo test result, a very large effect means players training with HIIT could run much further, recover faster between those runs, and basically sustain high intensity for much longer. That's a massive boost to their endurance in game-like situations.
Wow.
And the why behind it, HIIT pushes those aerobic limits. It improves cardiac output, stroke volume, builds more capillaries for better oxygen delivery, raises the lactate threshold, and just makes recovery more efficient.
So practically speaking, that player recovers way faster after a sprint, ready for the next play almost immediately. Huge advantage in basketball.
Okay, what about explosive power? The jumping, the quick bursts.
For power, they found a moderate effect on counter-movement jump height, the CMJ. So players could jump higher?
Okay, moderate effect.
Moderate, yes. And also significant improvements in anaerobic power, like on the Wingate test. HI8 seems to supercharge that ATP-PPC system for short bursts, makes glycolysis more efficient, basically helps you generate force quickly.
But you mentioned inconsistencies earlier with jump tests in the overall review. If HIA is good for power, why did some studies find no improvement?
That's a really important question. And the review suggests a few potential reasons. Some studies looked at adolescents, maybe 15, 16 years old. Their bodies are still developing, so they might not adapt to HIIT in the same way or as quickly as adults.
Okay, that makes sense. Also, when the training happens matters. Doing intense HIIT during the competitive season, players might already be fatigued, cumulative load. That could blunt the gains or even increase injury risk. And sometimes, maybe the training sessions themselves were just too long, becoming counterproductive.
Right, context matters. Okay, what about change of direction ability, CIA? So critical for defense, fakes.
Yes, CIA. The t-test performance, which is a standard measure for this, showed a moderate effect as well.
Moderate again? Seems like a common theme.
It does for several key areas. The improvement here likely comes from HIIT protocols, especially those using high intensities like 90–95% of VIFT.
VIFT.
Velocity at the individual anaerobic threshold, basically a marker of high aerobic effort. So HIIT at that level, especially if it includes relevant exercises like jumps and lunges, enhances anaerobic capacity, explosive power, balance, stability, all crucial for changing direction quickly.
And the inconsistencies here. Why might some studies not show God improvements?
Similar potential reasons, again, young age, in-season training fatigue, but also the type of HIT might matter. For example, one study used battle rope training, which is great for upper body and core, maybe, but might not directly stress the lower body CDOD movements enough to see a big change, especially in elite international players who already have very high COD abilities. They might need more specific game-like stimuli.
Gotcha. Specificity is key. And speed, that linear sprint down the court.
Here, the meta-analysis showed a small effect on the 20-meter sprint test.
Small. Interesting.
Small, but statistically significant. And it's worth noting, most individual studies did report significant improvements in both single linear sprints and repeated sprintability, RSA. HIIT helps here by enhancing acceleration, top speed, neuromuscular efficiency, boosting anaerobic capacity, and really training the body to recover quickly between those sprints, essential for transition play.
Okay, so even a small effect size in the meta-analysis doesn't mean it's not beneficial, just maybe less pronounced than endurance or power games across the board.
Exactly. And again, inconsistencies popped up. Some specific VIFT-based HIIT didn't improve RSA, maybe because VIFT focuses more on aerobic fitness than the specific anaerobic power and rapid recovery needed for repeated sprinting.
Right.
Also, maybe the program duration was too short in some cases, like 4 weeks might just not be enough time to see significant speed gains.
Okay. And lastly, what about pure muscular strength and endurance? Did HIIT boost those?
This is where the evidence in this particular review is quite limited. Only one study they included looked directly at muscular strength. It showed improvement in the 1-rep max leg press.
Okay, just one.
And only one looked at muscular endurance, finding better core endurance with battle rope training. So, well, those are positive findings individually.
Can't really generalize from one study each.
Precisely. It's premature to draw broad conclusions about HIIT's universal impact on strength and endurance based solely on this review. We definitely need more research focusing specifically on those outcomes in basketball players using HIIT.
Right. So let's tie this all together. What does this mean for actual basketball skills? Beyond just jumping higher or running faster, does HI make you a better shooter, a better passer?
Well, the review did find that HII, when as part of a complete training program, did significantly improve overall basketball performance metrics. Things like defensive movement quality, dribbling speed, and control. These aspects rely heavily on the physical qualities HIIT enhances, like agility and foot speed.
Okay, so it helps with the physically demanding parts of skills. But you also mentioned those inconsistencies earlier.
Exactly. When they look specifically at things like shooting accuracy and passing precision, the effects were inconsistent across the different studies.
Why would that be? If you're more powerful, shouldn't your shot improve?
It's a great question. HIIT definitely improves the physical capacity, the explosive power for shooting, the coordination that helps with passing, the footwork for defense and dribbling. But hitting a target accurately, making the right pass under pressure, that requires highly refined technique and decision-making. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really highlights that HIIT is primarily a conditioning tool. It builds the engine, the physical foundation. But it might not on its own fine-tune the specific motor patterns needed for skills like shooting or passing precision. That still requires dedicated skill practice.
That's a really crucial distinction, conditioning versus skill refinement. So for the coaches, the trainers, maybe even players listening, what are the key practical takeaways? How should we actually use this knowledge?
Okay, several key things stand out. First, timing is really important. The review suggests HIIT is probably best integrated during the off-season or preseason.
To build the base without overloading during competition.
Exactly. Avoid adding that extra high-intensity load when players are already dealing with games and frequent practices during the in-season. Second, make the HIIT basketball specific where possible. Incorporate movements like lateral shuffles, defensive slides, maybe even jumping or bounding patterns within the HIIT protocols.
Makes the transfer better.
Hopefully, yes. And third, given those inconsistent effects on fine motor skills, you absolutely need balanced training. Don't replace skill work with HIIT. Combine HIIT for conditioning with dedicated, focused practice on shooting, passing, dribbling techniques. HIIT builds the capacity, skill practice refines the execution.
Great practical advice. Now, you mentioned earlier, and the study authors did too, that no study is perfect. What were the limitations of this review that we should keep in mind?
Right. Acknowledging limitations is good science. They pointed out a few things. Some of the included studies didn't clearly state when the HIIT was done, preseason, in-season, off-season. That makes it harder to analyze the specific effects of timing. There was also a potential risk of bias in some of the original studies. Things like maybe not blinding the assessors properly, which could potentially influence the results they reported. And finally, because there weren't enough studies focusing on specific subgroups, they couldn't do separate analyses comparing, say, adolescents versus adults or international versus national level players. There might be real differences in how HI affects these groups, but this review couldn't tease those out.
Got it. So, important context to consider. Okay, wrapping this up then, this deep dive really shows us that HII is, well, it's a powerful tool for basketball players, especially for boosting that cardiovascular endurance, the power, agility, sprint performance, overall physical readiness.
Definitely.
But its effectiveness isn't quite a one-size-fits-all thing, particularly when you get down to refining those really delicate game-specific skills like shooting touch or passing accuracy.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this review really hammers home the need for individualized training plans. It isn't just about doing HIT, it's about doing the right kind of HIT at the right time and, crucially, alongside targeted skill work. So that the science gives us the powerful tool, but the art and science of coaching is figuring out how to tailor that tool perfectly for each unique athlete and their role. How do we get from HIIT works to HIIT works optimally for this player? That feels like the next frontier.
That's a great thought to leave people with. Now, this was just a glimpse into some really comprehensive findings. For all the fascinating details, the specific data, the effect sizes, we absolutely encourage you to read the full article. Again, that's The Effects of High-Intensity Interval Training on Basketball Players, a systematic review and meta-analysis by Cow and colleagues in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine. And if you found this deep dive valuable, please make sure to follow our channel, turn on those notifications. That way you won't miss our next exploration into the world of fascinating research.